How to win friends and influence enemies with Will Witt. That's what we're going to discuss on this show today. Or maybe our liberals just whacked. We're going to take a whole different approach to this show today. In this episode, I'm mixing it up. As you guys know, typically we just have our military friends on the show, but I'm mixing it up because we need to talk about some real issues. We're going to talk about COVID. We're going to talk about racism. We're going to talk about immigration, because these seem to be the topics that is just flooding us in the headlines. So we're going to address those head on today. So welcome to this edition of the Military Wire with Mike Schindler. I am Mike Schindler, and on this show, we interview some of America's most elite men and women who have served this country in uniform in hopes that you, our listener, get an aha moment that you can apply to your own life. So before we get rolling, I want to thank our sponsors, Bone Frog Coffee and Bone Frog Cellars. Founded by my friend Tim Cruikshank, Navy SEAL, 25 years. Portions of those proceeds go to the Navy SEAL Foundation to help the families of fallen SEALs. So thank you, Tim, for doing that. So winning the hearts and minds, that was something that us in the military used to say all the time. We got to win the hearts and minds of those that we're going out to. But now in these times, it seems like we've got to win the hearts and minds of our neighbors or people in the grocery store. So how do we influence the hearts and minds of our enemies? Well, our guest today is Will Witt, and he just wrote the book, How to Influence Our Friends and Influence Our Enemies. How to Win Friends and Influence Our Enemies. So Will Witt, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Will, I want to give people a little bit more on your background. I'm reading your bio and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's under 30. The guy is kicking tail. So very impressed. So you're a media personality, national speaker, short form film director, cultural commentator, host of the show Will Witt Live on PragerU. So thank you for doing that. And the author of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, taking on liberal arguments with logic and humor.
That is what I do. That's essentially what I do. But I feel like, I really like to just distill all of that down into I am fighting a war on values right now. I think that is what we all have to do, knowing that we no longer have a shared value system in America. You used to be able to have someone who was a Democrat and you were a Republican and you guys could still be friends. But now that is no longer the case because these other people don't have the same values as we do anymore. They don't love this country. They don't think the founding of this country was a good thing. They don't think America was worth it. And so because of that, I feel like that is what I do. Through all those different lenses and all those different avenues, I'm trying to influence people's values the best that I can.
I see. And I love that. I want to give people a little bit more of your background too, because I think sometimes they think, wow, you know what, this guy's got to be college educated. I mean, look at all the things he's done. I mean, your film, which I just watched, Fleeing California. So if people have not seen Fleeing California, they need to watch it. Great film, by the way.
Thank you.
Over 500 million views of that online videos, very impressive. But you're a college dropout. You moved to LA, right? You're a millennial.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you should be all these things. Like you should be, in my opinion, on the far left woke side of every issue. And yet here you are taking on a very different view. What the heck happened to you? You're living in LA and you're a conservative. I don't get it.
Yeah, no, I'm a rare breed out here. I mean, they should put me on the endangered species list because that's really how it feels here in Los Angeles, having these views. But, it's funny. I started out as a liberal atheist. I was a liberal atheist basically my entire life. And so I prescribe to all of those things that you're talking about, all of the normal things that people my age prescribe to. But there comes a point that I think is really important to note, that when you find out what truth is, when you find out what is actually really going on and things that are happening in the world, you feel like you've been lied to your whole life, which I was. I was lied to about God. I was lied to about the Bible. I was lied to about politics and culture and who's really in charge and all of that. I was lied to about all of it. And once I figured out I was being lied to, I said, I have to go and do something about this. I feel like I was compelled to go and have to speak truth to people, to talk to them, because I don't want other people to be lied to all the time. I want them to understand that there is a different path, that the things that you have heard in the universities and the mainstream media and the news cycle and big special corporate interests. I mean, all of these different things are lying to you. I want people to wake up to what's actually going on, like it did for me.
So what was there a catalytic moment for you, Will? Because you and I both know when you're surrounded by your environment, when you're surrounded by people who think like you do, you kind of you buy into groupthink. Was there a moment where you just kind of said, wait a second, none of this is making sense to me? What happened?
Yeah, I outlined some of it in the book in the first chapter that you guys are going to be able to pick up. But one thing that's important to note that I didn't necessarily super talk about I think it was the fact about white privilege that really got to me,
Yeah.
because I think that it is abhorrent to say that people have white privilege, or to say that because of the color of their skin they have certain privileges. I grew up. I hate to even say this because I never want to sound like a victim, but only saying it for the fact of it might inspire other people. Is that I grew up in a life where I didn't have the things that other people had. My dad was in prison since the time I was 5 years old. Right, my mom worked 16-hour shifts on the weekend to provide for me and my sister, and to look at me and say, oh, this guy must be college educated because he's white and he's a conservative and he must be all these different things, is truly a despicable racist thing to say to someone, right? And so
Mhm.
getting out of that was incredibly important to me when I started hearing about white privilege in my classes and everything. And I was like, this black girl next to me, she's going to school on scholarship and is playing sports and like isn't even paying for school, and I'm paying for all of my school and didn't have this great upbringing and all of that. And it's like, how can you say that this white privilege thing is real? It's just not real. And so hearing about that really drove me to say, okay, if they're lying to me about white privilege, which is really just racism, then what else are they lying to me about? And I started reading a lot. I think that is incredibly important. I think over 3 years, I read probably close to, 1,000 books or something like that. I mean, I read a lot
Mm.
just to figure out what's going on. And I started to realize that everything was a lie. All the things they told me was a lie.
It's interesting. When I first went to boot camp, it truly is a melting pot. When you serve in the military, it's all religions, all walks of life, etc. Back when I served, there were still males and females. There was not this gender trans fluid thing that they say today. Um, I was on a ship with all men, and we had, geez, I think we had blacks, we had whites, we had Filipinos, we had Vietnamese, we had all of us. And interestingly enough, is yes, we had our differences, but we got along. We were focused on one team, one fight, right? The mission at hand.
Right.
It's interesting to me when you go to college campuses, you do interviews on the street. If people haven't checked that out, they need to. They're brilliant. I love how you phrase your questions. Very well done.
Thank you.
But you go to college campuses. Speaking of college campuses, my daughter, her friend Hannah, huge fans of yours. So
Thank you.
yeah, so put a shout out to Hannah and Taylor if you like. But um, you simply ask other students why they hold their beliefs. You challenge them a little bit. And are you hopeful that this generation that's coming up, are they thinking or are they just consuming?
It's a double-edged sword for sure, because I am not hopeful, because as a group, people are very stupid and they will side with the group instead of looking for individual answers, because it is much safer to be a part of a group. It feels good to be a part of a
Hmm.
group. No one wants to be ousted as a pariah or be ostracized in their community or their circle of friends, whatever it might be. It's like when I went to University of Maryland about 3 weeks ago on my tour, one of my first stops, there were about 50 protesters who came out and protested my event. And I went out there and I said, hey, I'm sure that conservatives have said some lies about you guys, and I'm sure that the left has said some lies about me. So why don't we have a conversation and try and
Yeah.
figure out what's going on here? Why am I? A guy had a sign that said, Will Witt is a racist and a liar, right?
Hmm.
And so I say that exact same thing to them. I give them the benefit of the doubt. And what do? They scream at me. They yell obscenities at me. They yell vulgar, disgusting things at me. None of them would actually have a conversation. I reserved seating for them at the event. We sold out, but I still reserved seating for them so that they could come. And I said, come ask me questions. Tell me why I'm wrong and tell me what's actually going on. Not one of them came to the event and actually asked any questions. But
Hmm.
I find that when I go and talk to people on an individual basis, when people don't already have this stigma of maybe who I am or what these other people believe, and I can go and talk to them individually, I have almost, I don't want to say 100% success rate, but I have gotten very good at being able to talk to people and change their minds on an individual level, because it's about asking those questions. It's about having compassion, and it's about having some humility as well, and saying, I might not have all the answers, but let me ask this person questions to make them think. And maybe they can teach me something too. right? I think we come at so many arguments or debates or conversations so vain, thinking that we can't learn anything. I mean, since the pandemic started a year and a half ago or more, my political views and cultural views have shifted dramatically on a lot of different things. That's from reading a lot of books, and that's from talking to a lot of different people. So I am hopeful in the sense that if people can go out and have individual conversations and have it kind of be grassroots chain reaction, I'm very hopeful, because anyone can have their mind changed. But if we're trying to just do things on a groupthink type of level, work like how the left does and work as a collective, I mean, it's never going to work, and things are just going to continue to get worse, and we're going to continue to be steamrolled by these attractive ideas from the left.
Yeah, so you're talking about, taking our differences and moving them into discussion instead of divide, which I think both parties are guilty of trying to divide,
Yep.
which I don't think is going to end well. On your show, Will, with Amalia, which is again a great show, you tackle some very relevant issues.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you guys. You always approach things with a bit of humor, which I appreciate. So do you think that humor is the gateway? Do you think humor can diffuse or change somebody's state of mind? Or do you just have to really deliver the facts and hope that they buy into the facts and they'll just ignore the story?
Now, humor is 100% the way. I am a big fan of humor, and that's why the left wants to destroy humor, not just because I'm a fan of it, but because they know that comedy is kind of the last frontier, right? They understand that if you are making someone laugh in a dialogue, then they're going to be very receptive to listening to you, because it makes people happy. You get a dopamine hit when you laugh. And so people are attracted to that. So they want to talk to people who will make them laugh. This is why the left hates making people laugh. They just want to put out propaganda on late night TV now. It's not even funny whatsoever. Look at someone like Norm Macdonald, who made fun of people on the right, on the left, people who weren't in politics. I mean, he did a great job waking people up to truth by making people laugh. And so I think that humor is really the last real frontier that we can use to say, hey, here's how we can actually talk to people and be friendly with people and change people's minds. Again, it's about compassion, humility when you're going and talking to people. And I get it that not everyone thinks that they're this hilarious or funny person. I understand that. It's hard to build those skills, to be quick-witted and clever, but you will build those skills from just talking to people. When I grew up, I mean, I was the most extroverted or introverted, shy kid there was. I would rather just sit down and play Pokemon on my Game Boy and read than ever go and actually have a conversation with anybody. And so, but now I do this for a living. It's totally, like spun itself on its head. And it's because a lot of practice. It's a lot of practice. You have to be willing to put in the practice to go and try and be clever and witty and know your facts and ask the questions.
Well, it's so interesting that you bring that up, because I think there's a number of comedians that are under attack, right? And it has really nothing to do with race, which is so interesting to me. They're going after Chappelle now. I mean, that's totally interesting to me. But before I get there, I want to talk about COVID, because you address this in your book, which I found very compelling. It actually made me do even more research. So I'm just going to encourage all our listeners, people that are viewers, you got to pick up Will's book. It's very good. It breaks down almost every segment of an issue that we're addressing today in our population, and you do a great job of that. I looked up the data on October 2nd. I think there was 43 million confirmed COVID cases in the United States, about 687,000 deaths attributed to COVID on the death certificates, all according to the CDC website. Now, I'm told that COVID cases are underreported. I'm not a scientist or a doctor, but I can at least do math, right? That's one thing I can do. Why the hell do people believe that there is a killer waiting outside their door with this thing?
It's much easier to believe there's a killer outside your door than to have to go and face that killer yourself. You understand? If people think that the world outside is scary and they can stay at home and watch porn and they can order their food home and work from home and not have to do anything brave or passionate or articulate or wonderful in their lives, they can continue to go on being mediocre and not having to do anything exceptional. I think that the left hates exceptionalism. I think they want to tell people that they don't need to be exceptional. And I think that America was founded by exceptional men who had unpopular ideas. And so the fact that they want people to be these safe, saran wrapped, safe space type of people is what is really hurting this country. It goes beyond COVID. It goes beyond politics. It really goes back to a values thing, and that people no longer have a brave value about themselves. They now have a risk averse value, if that makes sense, if you guys understand what I
Oh,
mean.
sure. Yeah.
That people are, like if World War II happened today and we needed men to go storm the beaches of Normandy, can you imagine? Can you imagine who would raise their hand to sign
Yeah.
up? I mean, it would be laughable the amount of people who would come to do that. You know, that's the greatest generation in World War II, and now I feel like we are in what might be America's worst generation. And I say that after reading a lot of history and after knowing about this country, I really believe that. And so much of it is because of the people who influence these young people in our country right now. I can't blame the young people in this country totally, because they don't get to control all the standards of how they live and the media and universities and all that. So it's kind of twofold there. But yeah, I think that people are much, they feel much better living in fear than they do having to actually go confront that fear and be great people.
Yeah, you're talking about the reversal of fear, which is, our best self lives on the other side of our fear, right? So we have to step into it. Most people don't want to step into it. Most people want to be coddled. I agree with you on that. I mean, it's so interesting to see what's going on. Don't get me started on what's going on in the military and this
I know, man.
four-star admiral that was just appointed that, believe me, the chatter on our little closed network, I, I'm
I can
already
only
in trouble on
imagine.
this episode anyway, Will. So I don't want to dig myself a deeper ditch, but I want to move. Let's talk about something that is not doesn't have a huge spotlight on. Let's talk about racism. Let's talk about, because you address that in your book too.
Right.
We had a local politician here in our city. She went on the regional news and she stated that the city that we live in is racist. Now I can tell you, are there racist people? Of course. But is it racist? Far from it. But anyone who disagreed with her was villainized. I mean, they were just, I mean, I mean, so I think we both can agree that racism is real, but are we a racist country? I mean, I'm not seeing it, but again, I'm over 50 and people say I'm old and I can't see well anymore. So are we a racist country?
Of course not. I mean, it is ludicrous to think so. Why are millions of Black immigrants from Africa moving to America? Because it's a racist country? In the 1930s, did millions of Jews from Poland move into Nazi Germany? Of course not, because that was an actually racially intolerant place, a racially intolerant place to be. But Black Africans from Africa are moving into America because they know there is nowhere better in the world to live than in this country, no matter what race you are, what gender you are, anything like that. What CRT is, this critical race theory, what it boils down to in essence is that the left is telling you a lie. They tell you that because you are Black or because you are gay or because you're a woman, all these different things, all these different categories, they tell you that you are unique because of that. Okay. They tell you that you are unique because you have some intersectional category about yourself. But really, it is a lie, because what they forget is that your name is Jeffrey and you play piano and you study theology and you are this articulate person who has these types of ideas. And the guy, Matt, who looks just like you, has nothing in common with you. Even though you guys look exactly alike, he has nothing in common with you. So all this racism stuff and the CRT stuff, they try and sell it to you as you being a unique individual. But really all it does is put you into a box and turns you into part of their collective. Once you are
Mm,
part of their collective, it means you can be controlled. You say and you parrot the things that they want you to say. It's like the author Auberon Herbert. He used to say that they make people into ciphers through political parties. The cipher is essentially someone who follows the party above their individual thoughts. And that's what it is with the CRT and collectivism, because they want you to be a part of a group. They fool you into thinking you are unique. In reality, none of those characteristics make you into a unique person. What makes you unique are the things you believe, the things that you
yeah,
do in your life, your actions. This is what
yeah.
true individualism means. And so they say that America's this racist country. They say that we still have to overcome all of these things so that they can control you. They want to put you in one of these groups, when in reality, don't fall for any of these things they say. Be an individual and know that you are not a part of the collective.
Yeah, see, I love that. Individualism is paramount. I think that's why God put us here, is to influence this fear, and it was based on your individualism and the gifts that you bring to the marketplace. That's how you're going to influence. There's going to be being part of the board for those who are Star Trek followers. I mean, Yeah, I totally get it. So let's move to illegal immigration because this is a huge topic. We talk about these open borders. We talk about, hey, we're so concerned about terrorists, but yet we have open borders. We're so concerned about COVID, yet we have open borders. You write in your book, the data is clear. You care about Black lives and helping Black people in America. Then you have to stand against illegal immigration. What do you mean by this?
What I mean by that is that every single union in America used to be against illegal immigration. Even all the Democrat politicians used to be against illegal immigration. Joe Biden himself in 1975, during the Saigon crisis, when he was a senator of Delaware, he came and said, why are we letting all these refugees in? We haven't vetted these people, right? Cesar Chavez, who was the workers' rights guy in the 1970s, he used to go to the U.S.-Mexico border and he would beat up illegal immigrants and send them back because he knew that it was hurting the wages of the people that he worked to get rights for, right? Everything has shifted on illegal immigration. Now it is the civil rights issue of our time, according to many people. And so what I meant by that is that if you want Black people to succeed in America, then you have to get rid of illegal immigration, because these people are coming in and they're undercutting the wages of many of these African Americans in America and taking the jobs that they might have taken themselves. I mean, there are studies that show that wages of African Americans go down when you have excess illegal immigration. It should be
Mm,
obvious for people. You shouldn't even have to do a study on that, because when you have people who are coming in who are working for less and are taking low skill labor jobs, then you are not having those other people who were here before fill those jobs in the market. So it's
yeah,
just funny that with the lies that we're hearing from the left, I mean, all these people will tell you that illegal immigration is such a big issue and that, or not an issue at all, and that we should let all these people in, that the border wall is racist. And then you look at this new $3.5 trillion package that they're putting through, and it's like they are sending money to other countries around the world so that they can build walls around their countries. It's like, oh, a border wall's racist in America, but we're going to give millions upon millions of dollars to other countries for them to build walls. They don't even believe the things they're saying. They don't believe it because illegal immigrants aren't moving into the politicians' neighborhoods. MS-13 isn't in Maxine Waters or Nancy Pelosi's neighborhood. They're in normal communities here in America, and it doesn't affect these people.
yeah. Will, you are such a encyclopedia of information. Your book
Thank
is
you.
exceptional. What is it you want your readers to gain from this book? And I love the title, by the way. So, How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies, Taking on Liberal Arguments with Logic and Humor. So funny, because one of the first books I ever read in college was How to Win Friends and Influence People. So I
Mhm.
love the cleverness of the title. But what do you want people to gain from this book?
What I want people to know is that I understand why all of you guys do the things that you do, whether it's maybe you're in the military and they say, hey, you have to be vaccinated to stay in and you get the vax, or maybe you're at a university and they tell you have to write a paper about some cause you don't agree with and you do it so that you can go to med school, or your family wants you to think a certain way and you don't want to be ousted by them, so you go along and parrot what they want you to say. I understand why people do all of these different things, okay? I truly do. But what I want everyone to do is to take a good look at themselves and say, how much of myself am I willing to sacrifice? How much of myself am I willing to let go until I am no longer that person that I thought I was? Right? When
Mm,
you sacrifice yourself constantly to appease other people, you can no longer consider yourself someone who stands up for truth. And that's a really big deal, because there is no greater pursuit in our entire lives than pursuing truth.
yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe that. And so if you are not doing that, then you cannot call yourself someone who is a person who stands for truth. So again, I get why you do it. And you have to look at yourself and say, you know, how much did this really cost me to appease other people? When in real life, we should be appeasing God. That is
Mm.
the one who we should be appeasing above all else, and looking for answers in scripture and within truth.
Yeah, I love that. Well, it's an exceptional book. I love it. How do people follow you? I know that you know more young people need to follow what and hear what you're saying, because you do base it on truth. So how do they follow you? Where can they find you?
You guys can find me on social media anywhere at the Will Wit: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, I think even. So if you want some business insights, maybe we could even go there. And then you can find the book anywhere books are sold: How to Win Friends and Influence Enemies on, excuse me, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, anywhere.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, thanks for being part of the show. I'm going to encourage everybody to buy the book. It is a great book. I learned from it. I've got the pages already earmarked and bookmarked. So great book. So learn
Thank
from
you.
him. I mean, Will, I just want to say thank you again for being on the Military Wire. And for those who are looking to seek for their next mission, purpose, and identity, be sure you reach out to us here at Operation Military Family. Follow our segments on the Military Wire. But Will, to you, thank you, sir, for being a part of this episode. I'm truly grateful.
Thank you, man. God bless you. God bless all the veterans who are watching. Thank you all for your service.